Okay. So last night you worked a double shift, but you got
Mm.
some good sleep, 10 to 11 hours. So you're not feeling chipper now, but you're kind of you're up for a little discussion.
Yeah, yeah, I'm feeling okay. And it's a slow day and I wasn't gonna do much anyways, so
Okay. So you might
I
as
have
well
the
just
time.
waste time here.
Yeah, yeah, or I would have used the time maybe playing a mobile phone game, but I feel
Yeah.
this it's still better use of time.
Yeah. Well, you did waste a little time with doing one of those, right? What did you say it
Yeah.
was? Was it a romance game?
No, it's a game that kept popping up on my YouTube ads. So
Hmm.
it's called June's Journey. So it's kind of like a crime solving kind of
Right,
story,
right,
and
yeah.
it's set in the 1920s. So it
Oh.
follows this wealthy uh heiress of sorts, and she's like investigating the murder of her sister and brother-in-law. Um
Mm.
and yeah, it just has like find the object game and things like that as you to progress through the story.
Right. And yeah, and that you like escape rooms, so that kind of hits at least a couple of different interests for you.
Yeah,
Mystery, murder, and escape room kind of detail oriented kinds of things.
yeah, yeah, and a historical setting too. So
Mm.
I
Ah,
like all of
historical setting,
those.
of course, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So YouTube kind of knew me.
Yeah. Well, supposedly sometimes they know us better than we know ourselves, at least in how we respond on surveys.
Yeah.
Yeah, they probably do know us in some ways better than ourselves. Although I
Yeah.
like Vervaeke's idea of there's different ways of knowing, and that for a fulfilling life, we need more than just the propositional, uber sort of coldly rational way of knowing ourselves, and we need
Mm.
to know experiences and transcend our sense of selves and everything to really have a fulfilling life, and also to live in wisdom. It's not just about being happy and having some amount of ignorance also, but having
Mm.
wisdom and being happy, fulfilled. Anyway, yeah, we talk a lot about that, but today we were going to start off on a little different topic with something I'm going to right after this recording, I think, uh, put up this Richard Reeves clip. He's on a podcast called Diary of a CEO. But anyway, this is kind of something that he talks a lot about. He's sort of a person who's he's not like trad always been talking about men's issues or something like that, but just looking at the data has made him concerned. You and I were talking about this clip um, that I'll put up on my Facebook page, which has the same name as this podcast Ben Amtad. He mentioned statistics like just in America alone, how everywhere the male suicide rate is something like four times higher than the female suicide rate, and in America
Mm.
alone, the it's roughly like if since about 2000, if the male suicide rate were the same as the female suicide rate, men, there would be something like 550,000 men who did not die by suicide since
Mm.
then. And that's only in about 20 years time. That's a lot of people, like a hundred, more than 500,000 people. Uh,
Yeah.
and so there would still be many men that committed suicide, but not uh but there would still be that many more alive if the female and male rate were the same.
Mm.
But yeah, I put stuff up on this sometimes on my Facebook page and things. But yeah. Yeah, what do you think about that? Do you hear about this stuff very much? Like I follow some people online and so I know about it, you know, some social scientists and Richard Reeves who is sort of I don't know if he's a social scientist, but yeah, he follows this kind of data and he's concerned.
Uh, well, yeah, like when you first told me, I was just very shocked at the number. Because I went to like a university with like 40,000 people in attendance, and I recall just the sheer amount of people there just going about their classes and stuff, and it was overwhelming. So, do you think it's multiple, like a, I don't know how many of those universities of men like that took their lives that could have been alive now?
Yeah. You're just
It's just
trying to
hard to
imagine
even
it.
calculate, or
Yeah.
yeah,
You're just trying to
imagine.
imagine 550 or so thousand men that
Yeah.
killed themselves more
Yeah.
than women who killed themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it just had that, and then I kind of started thinking about um, just like the kind of the general climate I kind of feel with because how gender relations are right now. Uh, we know it's not good. Yeah, and I feel like a large part of that is men kind of being vilified in some kind of way, or like we kind of talked about, like mentioned, like there's just not a lot of spaces for men like there are for women. And I think maybe part of the answer to the question of how to like prevent that such a high suicide rate, I think part of that like would help.
Having
Um,
men's yeah, we both don't like that word space, but yeah, having men's
yeah,
spaces. Yeah, even
yeah,
you reminded me that even the Boy Scouts now is not really uh for boys only.
yeah,
It's
yeah, and
the Boy Scouts is the Boy and Girl Scouts and the Girl Scouts is the Girl Scouts.
mhm, yeah. Um, and yeah, I think those kinds of spaces are would just it helps with distraction, I'd say. Because when I think of times when I don't want men around, like it's I feel there's just some things where people function best kind of among their sex. And we kind of accept that with women and it's not really questioned, but there seems to be a problem when people want to do that for men. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah,
that to me in itself seems like a problem. Yeah,
yeah,
I started talking with you. I mean, I think part of it's we have confusion over what a man actually is. Um,
mm,
and it seems like so much of the conversation online is like we don't really talk about that. And if sometimes if that's brought up, it's more like that is dismissed as something important to talk about.
mm,
And I think that's
yeah,
where there is room after that for like the sort of bad male role models to come in, or
mm,
not very good ones anyway, that just emphasize some kind of overt power, money, or uh, uh, you know, being very physically imposing or something, you know, or sort
mhm,
of bodybuilders sort of concentrate maybe a lot and maybe sometimes to the detriment of other parts of yourself on building the body.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you yeah, I told you one of my students recently asked me this, but what do you think is the difference between a boy and a man? Is there a difference? What is a man?
Well, like, yeah, one of the first things I thought is part of like that process to maturity to a man is kind of a sense of balance or like stability in all things in
Mm,
life. Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I feel like a boy kind of doesn't have that sense. So we see a lot of the, normal or natural kind of behaviors for boys, which
Risk
is maybe too
taking.
much, yeah, or needless or unjustified kind of risk taking,
Mm.
um, or just like maybe not taking care of themselves properly day by day.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's a big thing. And that
yeah.
seems harder for boys to learn sometimes. And I think that's part of the reason maybe some young men are depressed. They're not taking care of
Mm,
themselves quite enough.
yeah. Yeah, because like we know like a child know the doesn't know those kinds of things. It's something you kind of learn. So yeah, I feel like a man is already like balanced and stable in those kinds of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I mentioned assertiveness. Um, yeah, and I kind of view the man as like the one that should act first most of the time, or kind of be the take kind of like the first step or something like in responding to situations in life.
Mm.
Um,
Do you
and I
think
think
that's more
it's,
attractive to women, even for them men to be more assertive?
yeah, like I've thought of relationship that ships that haven't like worked out in the past for myself, and one of the things I sensed that I didn't like was kind of passivity.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I thought of how that made me unhappy, and so like the opposite would have made me happier.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah,
Do you
and
think
it's I think as much as women are told that we're kind of wrong for wanting something like that, it's more natural.
yeah. I mean, what do you think what's the difference between being assertive and being a tyrant?
Um, I feel like tyrant, it kind of there's kind of a selfish or kind of um egotistical maybe kind of
Mm.
purpose or motivation to like the things they do,
Mm.
or it's about holding on to their own power or control in some ways, whereas the assertive person kind of uh does those kinds of things to maybe like or does things to kind of make things easier for like the people around them or like the women he's invested in and things like that. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and of course, like the tyrant obviously goes too far to like the extreme or like kind of unbalanced uh,
Yeah.
stuff I kind of mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everybody does feel yeah, the oppressive air of someone who's a bully or a tyrant. And
Hmm.
with someone who's just strong and assertive, but knows the group and has some sense of what is right for the group, for everyone in the group, and everyone isn't the same in a group. Children are
Hmm.
not the same as adults. Then yeah, I think that can help bring ease to the group when everybody
Hmm.
can feel like they can uh, do what's proper to them. They have
Yeah.
more freedom with some proper constraints and proper direction and sense
Hmm.
of where to go, which is not just intuitive. It has to be said sometimes.
Hmm. So yeah, like those two qualities were kind of the first things I thought of. And yeah, there's just so many more things, but like ultimately I feel like the intuition just it's something I can't really explain, but like I feel like myself and other women are able to just sense and men, whether they're uh
Truly
truly
grown up or
men or
not.
just men and physically only.
A boy
Yeah,
in men's clothes.
yeah.
You think
It's
that's a
just so
little
many
like,
things.
mm. Yeah, we talked, you mentioned that totality of impression and the sort of inchoateness of it. Um, and I mentioned to you there was the times when I've done things that are maybe not so common nowadays, like stood up in in a in a in a restaurant when a woman entered the room who I was like waiting to meet.
Mm,
Uh Not someone I was dating even, but a coworker along with another coworker, and that like really made an impression on her.
mm,
Uh yeah, things like that, how it's hot. And you and I tried to analyze what exactly is it that impressed her, and we couldn't quite, we could point to some things, but it was hard to say exactly what it was.
yeah.
But it,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I just thought like when in an unfamiliar environment or like some
Mm,
situation that's maybe not kind of new or something, it kind of provides kind of a sense of security and stuff to just kind of as a man position yourself as like the guide or like the person to keep you safe. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's
Yeah, and that,
comforting and reassuring.
yeah, that made sense to me. Yeah, from her perspective, I mean, yeah, she was entering this unfamiliar room. Yeah, and I was kind of showing my presence and things. And yeah, like you're saying, even some sort of a guide or something. Yeah, that makes sense. And I was saying, yeah, there's something even about I was showing my physicality in some way by standing up. It didn't take me a long time to stand up, or something like that. Was showing myself in some way. But yeah, it feels good to me, those types of things. I've mentioned to you living in the Bay Area, and sometimes being with a woman that will like rush forward and open the door for me, which I don't think I ever got used to. Um, but yeah, doing those sorts of things, I think, kind of feel kind of good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but it's an interesting experiment, at least, to try those things and see, do I feel like I am demeaning the woman, or yeah. Do men open the doors for you, or what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I've had that happen a lot, so
The men opening
yeah,
doors for you?
yeah, it's sometimes when I'm just out of the gym and I don't feel that attractive, but it's always made an impression on me. So that one time it happened, it was fun. Or sometimes when I'm at the gym, like a man will just come and help me put weights back. So just yeah, just going out of the way. That's happened. Uh,
So even in California,
okay.
even in the Bay Area, it's still, I mean, you're not necessarily in San Francisco proper, but
Yeah, it's happened. But still overall though, like I still have this sense of like it's happened like a significant amount of times, but I still kind of feel like an overall sense of passivity in most of the men here,
why
or
do you
else I
say that?
wouldn't have remembered those times so much. Um,
Oh,
well, maybe then it wasn't so many. It was more than twice, like say maybe 4 or 5 times. Um,
but where
but
do you get this sense of passivity? I know there is, I don't know the data, but yeah, I think a lot of men are afraid to approach women. I've heard this on a podcast with Chris Williamson's, mentioning that a large percentage of young men are of oh, a large percentage of young people say that for a man to approach a woman to ask her for a drink is like harassment.
mm,
Like that
yeah,
is harassment. Like a large percentage will say that.
mm,
More, yeah, 20, 30%. I don't remember.
yeah. Well, yeah, well, I've kind of sensed that, and or like I just have the sense where I'm not like acknowledged so much as a woman.
Mm.
Uh, we're just kind of all the same here, and I could be out in public, and those those displays when I go to places aren't like so like a everyday kind of occurrence.
What do you mean?
Like it's like we're all genderless in some kind of way, and
Oh, you said
we
those
treat each other.
displays. What do you mean?
Oh, like the chivalry type displays, um like carrying stuff or whatever a gentleman might kind of do in public. Um,
Yeah, I remember even 20 or more years ago when I was in college. And of course, I went to school at a very politically liberal school in the Bay Area. One of my friends uh, was talking about how he, like, to visit me or to visit, anyway, there's a big hill that he was walking up with his girlfriend, and she had her bike, and so she was like trudging her bike, pushing her bike up, and he wanted to push it for her, but she like very strongly rejected that.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, just yeah, just that kind of sense where we're all the same and our gender doesn't really mean anything. So like that kind of interaction in public. So like there's not really uh it's like we're interacting as genderless and not necessarily as men and women.
Yeah.
So that's the kind
I
of sense I get here.
I personally have many, many, many times throughout my life had the idea to act a certain way towards a woman, like act the same as you would towards a guy,
Mhm,
sort of like
mhm,
not in a rough way or something, but I'm not very rough anyway. But
mhm.
um, yeah, I've had that
Yeah,
idea. Like it's like I want to show that I'm not sexist. I don't
yeah,
want, yeah.
yeah,
I have the runway lights on or something. I need to
yeah,
do this right. I don't know. I'm not
yeah.
sure exactly.
Yeah, I get what you mean. So yeah, it's not like we're impolite to each other. Like yeah, people do open doors and stuff, but it's not as like to be like it's just to basic politeness, not really like
Yeah, just a
stuff between the genders.
basic genderless politeness. Yeah. But you
Yeah.
might be afraid to start to cross over into like, I'm being nice to you in a way that I'd only be to women and not to men.
Mm-hmm.
Like opening the door for you or pulling out the seat for you or something like that. I
Hmm.
might be afraid that I might get rejected by doing that.
Hmm.
And like
Yeah.
these couple examples we're talking about.
Yeah. So like it's an all-inclusive politeness, just
Yeah.
like that's what we're trying to be here, all-inclusive in the Bay
Yeah.
Area.
Yeah. All inclusive. Yeah. I mean, it's not, well, I mean, in a way, well, inclusive. I guess the idea is I mean, by being a certain nicer way to women, I'm actually excluding men. But I think the idea is not inclusive there, but more like uh treating someone as if they are weaker. I think that's the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Is it treating someone as if they're weaker by opening the door for them? It's always doing something physical, right? It's opening the door for them, pulling out a chair for them, carrying something for them.
I wouldn't see it as that. I'm thinking you're treating them as special or like kind of with care.
Yeah,
Because yeah, like men know perfectly well like I can do those things for myself, but it's kind of like an act of care to still do that for me anyways.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
It's
I
also,
kind
I
of see it
think,
more as
mm,
just attentiveness and being like a and showing goodwill.
yeah. I mean, you can't exclude the idea though that it's also trying to it does highlight the difference. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I can show you caring by playing my role with my strength. Um, I am, I am high. It's not like I'm necessarily showing off, but you could, in this sort of like philosophical analysis, say that this situation, my action is highlighting the difference in strength.
Mm,
So this is where the sort of social critique kind of analysis comes in, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, that analysis is kind of, you might say also that analysis is kind of cold.
Mhm.
Um, and if, but of course, there would be situations where some people could abuse those or try to highlight the differences or yeah, something like that to
Yeah,
where they're
of
trying to
course.
dominate someone or trying to demean
Mhm.
someone or something like that. That would happen too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, showing attentiveness, showing care.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe not just for like the those kinds of benefits for the women, but that kind of, like you said, just giving a role to the man, like that give like a greater sense of purpose, and that feels good, and
I think that's
maybe
a
that
big
way.
thing with men and
Yeah,
boys nowadays. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you
and
do want
maybe.
to. I tell you, there was a time, this was when I was in college. There was a girl I dated for a little while, and uh we were in a parking lot, and this was outside her church, and there was like a car that was parked, that was like shut in. It was in a parking space, and it was shut in on both sides and like half of the back. So it only had like half of a parking space to back out of. But so I had to do
Mhm,
like an Austin Powers kind of thing where I was like, eh, eh, to, you know, 3 inches forward to the left, 2 inches, 4 inches back to the right. It's, kept going that way. And finally I did get it out. And then she told me, like, well, now I'm impressed, like, and with emotion, not like over the top or anything. And I tell you, I lived on that sentence for the next hour. Like, drive, I remember where we drove. It was to like a 50s diner outside of town or something like that. But yeah, it really means a lot for a young guy, especially, I think, to feel like, to get that look. And it's not from anybody. It's from like, there's a different feeling like from an older man or something like that. But I think it's probably the strongest feeling, like to get that from a woman, to get that from a girl. And yeah. Have you ever had this type of situation or anything? Have you ever seen this type of thing? I feel like, maybe nowadays we get it less. I don't think women are very coquettish now, which coquettishness is kind of like taking that kind of thing and making a whole art out of it, right? And you know,
yeah. Well, maybe not on a personal level, but like I've been impressed by like a lot of these truck drivers' driving skills,
mm-hmm,
especially when they're like going backwards into a driveway
mm-hmm,
and navigating all
yeah,
that.
yeah,
And like
yeah,
I
that is
almost want to
impressive.
give the compliment and just say, wow, like, and they're mostly men, like all the time, anyways. But like I could just, yeah, I'm just like amazed and impressed. And if they
Mm-hmm,
were, I could talk to them out of their truck, I'd give that compliment because that's
yeah,
an intelligence right there.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's right.
yeah.
I'm talking about impersonal interactions. Do you have any thoughts about this?
Um, yeah, like I'd say like I don't have like much kind of that kind of experience. So yeah, I can't recall anything really.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like with like stuff like any like kind of displays of competence and skill, like I would be impressed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you think maybe if, I don't know, men had more roles in society where they could feel like they were useful and maybe had the chance to impress someone. I know we might get into territory of like unnecessary risk taking, but impressing in like by doing useful and skillful things,
Yeah,
especially with the
because
body, maybe.
mhm. Yeah, like if we had more of those opportunities, or kind of like a restoration of what we had in the past. Um,
What
yeah,
do you
I
mean
think
by
the
that?
rate would, because like in the past there was more like I guess people kind of respected that need for a role more, or acknowledged that, and there
Mhm.
wasn't as much of a like a societal kind of turn against that like we have now, where
Are you talking about
it's
men
kind
having
of,
specific roles, or are you just talking about everybody having some role based on their characteristics?
it could cover both. So yeah, men's roles in this case. Um, yeah, and it's degraded now to where we're kind of at the state we're at today. So I imagine like these men felt lost and didn't see the way out, or way to find that purpose in their lives. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I think we still don't really, yeah, we don't, I think we don't have that much of an idea of what a full life is, a human being
mm,
is, man, woman, if men and women should be at all different or much different, or if we should,
mm,
we also seem like we don't know if we should talk about these things. And
mm,
I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult, and politics gets into it. You know, things become politicized. People politicize things and uh get attention because of it, you know.
mm,
I don't know, there's just so many things that I think have gotten worse in the past, I don't know, decades or so. I think, you know,
yeah.
so many things that like science has led to, like, and good things in too, in a way, like medicines, but also drugs or internet. You know, so many things
Mm,
have lead to people, I don't know, just becoming confused and lost. And
mm,
I guess it's, you know, living unnatural lives more and
mm,
more, maybe, in
yeah.
things they put in their body, things they do with their time.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I'm kind of sensing like beyond kind of men and women, this kind of, I think it's called anti-natalism or something, but
Mm,
kind of this idea that we shouldn't even be around anymore, or more people shouldn't be born, and the world population needs to go down by like 50%. So I'm I'm just kind of hearing these ideas more now. So like I almost think there's like this undercurrent that's kind of against like what it means to be a person and to even exist.
that seems
Um,
almost like
yeah,
suicidal instinct of a culture.
yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to me. I don't know. There's some things that people say that seem uber rational in some way. What I mean by that is that so I think a lot of anti-natalists are probably very environmentalists. And of
yeah,
course I think the environment is very important. We need it to be cleaner and be careful about global warming and stuff. But I'm assuming that someone that's antinatal and talking like the way that you were talking just now is sort of thinking that humans are some sort of negative thing to the planet and to the other animals on this
yeah,
on this on this planet. It's not like they don't have a case at all or something. I'm not saying that at all, but to be so cold about, yeah, human beings and their own species, it seems unnatural. It seems very strange, and it sort of makes me uncomfortable, and I don't like that. I don't think that's good. I sort of think they're not. yeah, they're not consulting their souls or their hearts enough, you know.
Yeah,
Like it seems too cold and doesn't that's not a good way to be, not a good way to use your mind and
yeah,
to express yourself, you know.
yeah,
I mean, I think you do need to care about the planet and other species. I do, and
yeah,
care about their suffering and poisoning and stuff, but
yeah,
to then turn against humans and to be so cold,
yeah,
that's I don't know. It doesn't seem right to me.
yeah, yeah. Like I just, yeah, just like, yeah, just kind of a lot of those kinds of ideas, and of course, and that wouldn't help at all with fostering any positive relation to sexes when there's like just these overall anti-human uh kind of ideas going around. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but I think that can't be defeated by rationality. I think that
yeah,
has to be, if it does need to be defeated, I don't know, but more like by, yeah, good example, compassion, helping anybody who's not so extremely political that there's no getting to them. For the other people, trying to help them to, yeah, to consult their heart and to have compassion, not only for the planet or for other life, but also for human beings and for themselves too. I just think that they're kind of probably closed off to themselves or something, you know. I don't know. I don't think I don't want to live that way, but I don't think that's a good way to live. I don't think you have good thoughts and good words if your heart is seemingly like closed off that way, you know.
yeah,
Well, okay. So maybe we'll go on this week, and are you still doing those optimistic exercises, those outlook exercises?
mm,
Writing in the
uh,
journal positive thing about yourself and another 3 times a day,
this
complimenting
week,
others genuinely and being grateful.
this this week was bad for those things.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I wasn't a diligent student with that.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll try this week. But anyway, yeah, it was a
Mhm.
good talk, and I like to revisit this topic many times. I think it's very important, and I hope to talk to more people about this too.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Bye.